Paddle to the Sea, chapters 19, 20, and 21. Chapter 19, Forest Fire. One cold fall morning, Paddle stranded on a tiny island of rock. A quarter of a mile away lay a rounded bay with a beach bordered by forest. The morning was peaceful, but toward late afternoon, a cloud of smoke hung over the wilderness. Ashes fell into the water like snow, then hot sparks, until at last a forest fire raged across the wooded hills. The flames came nearer and nearer, and they reached the lake shore a mile each side of the bay, cutting off escape by land. 3 rabbits hopped out of the brush and squatted on the beach. They did not move when a lynx trotted past. 2 does crashed out of the timber. A fox and a marten rushed frantically over the driftwood. Mad with fear, these animals paid no attention to each other. Their numbers increased, and all of them, from bears to mice, tried to reach Paddle's island. Some of these creatures managed to survive the waves and crawled out near the little canoe. They gasped for breath and held their noses near the surface of the water where the air was not so thick with smoke. The fire roared like a hurricane all night. It swept to the bay until the shore became a wall of heat and flames. The whole world seemed to be on fire. All the next day, the terrified animals clung to the rock island or swam in aimless circles in the ash-filled water. Gradually, the fire died down, and a few black poles and hills bare of everything but ash were all that remained of the forest. One by one, the animals swam back to the beach to travel for miles in search of new forest home. The waves freed Paddle again, and he too left his island refuge and the blackened shores. Chapter 20, Through Lake Huron. While Paddle was drifting through the straits of Mackinac into Lake Huron, winter came. The water changed to ice, freezing Paddle to the shore. But men and boys from nearby towns, who fished in shanties over holes cut in the ice, accidentally freed him with their sleds. Pushed by howling winds, Paddle skated on his copper plate for hundreds of miles over Lake Huron. Lake Huron knew all about canoes, though it had probably never seen one skate before. The Indian tribes that had once lived in this territory had built some of the best birch bark canoes in America. The French had copied the Indians, finding canoes light and easy to carry around beaver dams and river rapids, or for portage from lake to lake where there were no streams. Even today, the canoe is still the best craft for traveling the water trails of the forest. Spring came, and Paddle was 2 years old. His paint, protected by Bill's waterproof varnish, was in good condition, and in winter skating had polished his copper plate like new. The ice cracked into cakes, drifted southward, and carried Paddle along. A young girl in her father's motorboat picked Paddle out of the water in Saginaw Bay one day in early summer. She read the message and scratched Bay City, Michigan, after Gary, Indiana. Then she planned a great launching, but her father read, Return me to water in good place to continue voyage to sea, and decided that the currents were too slow in Lake St. Clair. So, Paddle, sitting comfortably on a little girl's lap, completed his crossing of Lake Huron and was on his way to Detroit. Chapter 21, Paddle reaches Lake Erie. As the motorboat chugged lazily down the St. Clair River, with Michigan on one bank facing Canada on the other, it passed farms and summer cottages and came to marshy little Lake St. Clair. Here the water was so shallow that boys with lights and clanging bells had to mark out a course for ships. After crossing this lake, the boat entered a wide river and stopped at Detroit, and here Paddle's plate received another name. The girl's father, who worked at one of Detroit's factories, took Paddle to his office, where one of his friends, who had a museum filled with curiosities from the lake, offered to buy him. The girl's father shook his head. No, he said. Somewhere, someone who has faith in currents and winds and also in people put thought and careful work into carving, and I'll not be the one to stop his paddle to the sea. Paddle stayed a week in Detroit. One boat unloaded their red ore beside the factory that would turn it into thousands of bright new automobiles. And at the end of the week, Paddle again went to the motorboat with the girl and her father, this time down the Detroit River. Ferry boats running between the United States and Canada chugged across with their bows. Canoes with picnickers, rowboaters, and silent fishermen, passenger steamers noisy with dance music passed by. Big buildings, thunder streamers noisy with dance music passed by. But builders dropped astern, green fields replaced them, and a coast guard station trim and white, and islands with lighthouses. Then the shore dropped away and the motorboat stopped. There was a splash. Here's Lake Erie, paddle to the sea, cried the girl. Goodbye and good luck. Paddle to the sea.